So we did a sort of special launch episode with the King. He was so knowledgeable, so passionate. You know, I don't know whether he'd just read up about it, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it really tapped into a something that he wants to talk about and knows how to talk about. So yeah, dream guest, frankly, in so many ways. And Kate's a great interviewer, and there's another 3 episodes of that after it. But it was, when you talk about sonic branding, there's one, there aren't many people in the world who everybody recognizes the voice of. But,
those would be 2 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Does it really take 50,000 to make a song for?
No, I mean that's a
it seems like that would be more of an overall kind of audio brand.
Yeah, so if certainly, I mean, for a podcast, you can do it for sort of 5 or 10. I guess what I'm saying is, if in our ideal world, the podcast leads the development of an audio brand for a business, and therefore it's the thing that actually kicks those people into taking audio branding seriously. And that, often we talk about audio branding as if it's only music. It's also language, going back to, my original point. It is voiceover.
Yeah.
And one of the things that when Michaela and I were working at the BBC, BBC has a range of radio stations in the UK, Radio 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each of those radio stations has a totally distinct sound and would hate to sound like any of the others. So Radio 2, which is a sort of pop music station, does not want to sound like Radio 4, and Radio 4 is a sort of speech and drama and news station, and none of them want to sound like Radio 1. They're really, really distinct identities. So one of the conversations we often have here in the UK is, what radio station does your brand sound like? Is it Radio 1? Is it Radio 2? Is it Radio 4? Because it's a really lovely shorthand for what a sonic brand includes. And I say, when I'm promoting the Olympics on different stations, it's the subject matter as well. If it's the Winter Olympics in particular, on Radio 1 they're interested in the skateboarding and the tricks, and on Radio 4 they're interested in the figure skating. So all of those aspects come together and firstly they are, say, brand properties, but secondly, if you don't take care in establishing what your brand's tone of voice is early on, then you are going to mess it up quite quickly, and you're going to have to reverse out of it quite quickly. So we do try and spend an extended amount of time saying, what is your tone of voice? Who is if you can imagine a celebrity that would be your dream spokesperson, who would that be? What's your radio station look like? What words do you use and not use in your other communication? And all of that feeds into a general vibe that hopefully when people are listening to a podcast, they'll understand that it's from you. Even if, you don't want to plaster, you don't want to sound like a long advert, you don't want to plaster your brand all over it, but you do want people to not have missed the fact that you as a brand have paid for it. So when you get that tone of voice right and that sonic branding right, you are basically putting your stamp on the podcast without having to say so.
Yeah, and it's essential for getting people to both listen and remember what they're hearing.
100%.
So, yeah, and that consistency, of course, we were talking about earlier, with the release of episodes on a regular basis and not missing episodes just because.
Yeah.
That certainly makes a better whole package to go with that. Yeah.
And lots of it's not obvious. Lots of, we do this all day long. I've worked in audio and radio for 30 years, and it's easy to assume that because podcasts are mainstream, everybody knows what they're all about. Thankfully, I know how, I did start out having to explain to people what a podcast was. So thankfully, I don't have to do that anymore. But
that's good. Yeah, people know.
Yeah, it's a download audio file to your, etc. Don't have to do that anymore. But they do need explaining, and it's not, it's nobody's fault. It's just when it's a new type of content that people haven't created, they do need to understand how you make it, what the premise is, how you promote it, how you measure it. All of that stuff is super, super important when you're talking to a brand, because you used to be able to rock up and just say, it'll be really lovely and it will sound nice and people will, it'll have this kind of halo effect for your brand because people will enjoy listening to it and they'll feel warmer about you. That doesn't wash anymore. You're in competition. The podcast is in competition with all their other types of content, in competition with video, newsletters, social media, all of that stuff that brand is churning out every day. A podcast still has to justify its place in the arsenal of content that a brand is creating.
Yeah, and I totally agree. When it comes to metrics and data, though, what are you looking for as far as these branded podcasts are concerned? What do you think they should care about?
Attention, full stop,
Okay.
really.
So
I
how
think,
many hours are being watched? Is that the idea?
yes, how many hours are being watched,
Or
again,
listened to?
across all platforms.
Yeah.
But the important thing is this level of engagement that, as I say, is not present in any other, including video, including all sorts of media. It's simply the most attention heavy medium, because people, you're going out on a drive, or you're going out for a run, and your eyes are otherwise occupied, and therefore you've got people's full attention. They're probably listening on headphones. So there's Dan Meisner, who runs a company called Bumper, who we love. They are pioneering in terms of their data and analytics and how they tie it together, because one of the biggest frustrations about podcasting for the last few years is the amount of shoddy data that's out there, and also the number of different platforms you have to log into just to get your numbers in one place and just to get a real sort of picture of what's going on. So we use Bumper Dashboard, which is a terrific product, ties together YouTube and Apple and Spotify all in one place. And so you're talking about, when we go to brands, because we have a wash up at the end of every series, or on a sort of predetermined period if there is if it's an always on. So we're going in with, yes, this is how many people downloaded the show. And remember, of course, if it's niche, that's probably going to be a bit underwhelming, because, you hear about Stephen Bartlett telling you how many billions of downloads he's got, and that, a branded show is never going to be that.
Yeah, none of us are like that. We're not Joe Rogan either.
No, thank God. So that's that's something I'm very happy about. But they are looking to understand the audience behavior. So yes, downloads. We all want to see downloads rise, but if you go from series 1, you've got a 62% listen through rate, and series 2, you've got an 85% listen through rate. That is a really lovely indicator of how engaging you're being, how much people enjoy the show. You can see dips and troughs if people are not, if the show's not for them. So you can sort of understand whether, a presenter or a guest has sort of not been appropriate. And say, go back to Dan, we use a figure that he came up with, which is cost per minute of attention. And you normally end up, so really simple calculation, how many people have listened, what's the average listening time, multiply those together, and divide it by the budget. And that gives you, normally, in a UK sense, we're normally talking about under 10p for a minute of someone's attention. And if you compare that to, as I say, a TikTok video or something like that, the reduced cost for a whole minute of someone's completely undivided attention, it doesn't compare. So yes, so the listen through rate and the amount of attention is key. Of course, people are looking to do understand the click through rate from the social to the podcast. Of course, they are looking to, and we have 1 or 2 clients, not very many, but as I say, who have asked us to track traffic from listening to a podcast to visiting the website, and that's fine. And obviously, we're very happy to do that. Podcasting is more of a long-term branding brand building exercise than a direct response medium. It's certainly not really, obviously there are examples of kind of mattress companies who've done loads of podcast advertising and have
I
had a
would call
massive
it
direct response.
long tail marketing.
Exactly that. Long-term
Yeah.
marketing. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. And understanding that and valuing that is, frankly, it's sometimes the reason we don't win a pitch, because if someone goes in and promises they'll have, 1 million downloads, then, or that it will create an instant ROI for your product, we avoid saying that because we are really talking about it as a long-term brand building exercise.
Oh, yeah. I get
Um,
pitched a lot myself, actually,
right.
for people who say, oh, I can get you 1 million downloads or something.
Oh,
Well,
God,
okay,
yeah.
that's nice, but you're probably paying for them, or I am, and they're not
Yeah.
going to stick around.
On an absolute daily basis, I get a LinkedIn request from someone in Bangladesh who will get me 1 million
Oh my
downloads for my
goodness,
podcast.
yes. Yeah, all
And
over social media, in my email, like
yeah,
all the time.
that's
Yeah.
nonsense. It's nonsense.
It is. It is.
The way to build an audience is great presenter, great content, community, social, rewarding them for their attention, just creating a great product. It's not about, paying for 1 million downloads from somewhere else. I mean, it has its place. So there are one or two platforms who, like programmatic platforms, who have a value to them, because what they actually do is they add the rocket fuel to a show from the off. So you don't want to rely on them long term, but we at Fresh Air don't, we don't object to the idea of using some programmatic advertising to, certainly at launch, to get a podcast up the Apple charts so that it then built its own momentum. Your discoverability is still really poor. So using some sort of tool that isn't buying really poor quality traffic, but it is one of the things that you can use to boost discoverability and a profile within a platform. But it's, like I say, you can't get away from the basics of just make a great show.
Totally, yeah. And along those lines, I want to ask you if there's something that someone could do with their show if they're not getting that traction, or they're not getting the attention that they think their show deserves. Like, are there things that you've seen people change in their shows to up that?
The main thing is frequency and regularity. And I know I'm boring now because I'm going on about the same thing, but
no, it's fine. Tell it like it is.
It's about momentum. So it's absolutely momentum. The shift that we've seen when we've taken a client from doing 6 episodes a year to doing a fortnightly show is huge. Partnerships are really important, though, and I think it's a thing that when I worked in radio is a real kind of dog eat dog medium, partly because there are only so many radio listeners and you're all fighting over the same time slot, so everybody wants to be the biggest breakfast show. Whereas so you would never sort of have a collaboration between rival radio shows, whereas in podcasting there's much more of a sense that somebody else's success is not at everybody else's detriment. It's we've done some really lovely collaborations between That's Just Wild and The Rest is Entertainment, which is a huge show here. They have basically sort of swapped questions. So Steve on That's Just Wild asked a question of the guys on The Rest is Entertainment and vice versa. And that creates a massive spike because you're talking to an audience who don't previously know you exist.
What a cool idea too. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
And there is a willingness to do that because it's mutually beneficial. So that's the thing I really love about the medium, that everybody's having the same fight. Everybody's trying to build their show, but just because your podcast's doing well, it doesn't mean that mine's not. So find a podcast that shares an audience, that is tonally aligned, and where you feel like there's a genuine collaboration there. And that can have as big an impact as anything else.
Hi, this is Cynthia Jai, voice coach, and you're listening to the Audio Branding Podcast, a great place to learn about how powerful sound can be. If you want to understand how to harness that power in your own life, keep listening.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think it's a great idea too. Because you're right. I don't think one podcast success is at the expense of another. So,
No.
yeah, we're all just doing the best we can.
100%.
And along that note, I want to ask you, I want to go back to that podcast with the king. So
Yeah.
how did that come around? What
Yeah.
was that like?
Yeah, so talk about a recognizable voice.
Yeah.
So we are privileged to have the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew, as a client. Kew is a stunning garden, but also sort of scientific hub in the west of London. And they have a brilliant, in Surrey, just south of London, they have a place called the Millennium Seed Bank, which is, it's often called a sort of doomsday vault of seeds, essentially. So billions of seeds that they have.
The Noah's
there.
Ark. Yeah.
The Noah's Ark, exactly that. They don't like that, but it's, it's a part of what it is. But so, for example, when there are wildfires in the Australian outback, they can reseed plants that would otherwise have become extinct. And so they have a huge range of seeds and knowledge at their disposal. And they're incredibly lucky that their ambassador is Cate Blanchett, and their patron is His Majesty the King. And so we were planning. We've made 4 series now for Q about different topics, and we were planning this series about Millennium Seed Bank. And we knew that Cate was going to be the presenter, and obviously just a brilliant, one of the most recognizable actresses and voices in the world. And genuinely, she lives sort of 10 miles or so from Wakehurst, so she is she loves the place, so she's genuinely passionate about it. And then so we were sort of planning that, and then there was a call that says this is absolutely in the strictest confidence, but we think we have quite a guest for you. And so His Majesty, basically we recorded at Windsor Castle, in the gardens of Windsor Castle, with Cate and the King. And what I take away from it is that he's patron of thousands of things, right? Here, Canada, Australia, he's patron of all sorts of things. He can't possibly know everything about them. But Q is such a, we all know he loves plants and trees and the environment. It's such a passion for him. And the episode of that show is called it's called The Need for Seeds. Unearth the Need for Seeds. Sorry, I forgot the title of the podcast there for a second. So we did a sort of special launch episode with the King. He was so knowledgeable, so passionate. I don't know whether he'd just read up about it, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it really tapped into a something that he wants to talk about and knows how to talk about. So dream guest, frankly, in so many ways. And Cate's a great interviewer, and there's another 3 episodes of that after it. But it was, when you talk about sonic branding, there's one, there aren't many people in the world who everybody recognizes the voice of. But,
those would be 2 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Did you get a chance to meet either of them, or were you just editing this afterwards?
Personally, I didn't, but we had a team there.
Okay.
So Hannah and Michaela and Annie went to record, and there's all
That
sorts
must
of...
have been nerve-wracking.
Yeah. They both Annie and Michaela were wearing watches that track their heart rate, and Annie got up to 140 BPM without doing any exercise at all. She was just in the garden of Windsor Castle. And
it's good she didn't faint.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and we had all sorts of rehearsals beforehand about what mics to use. You're not allowed, we would normally use some sort of lapel mic, but you're not allowed to touch him, so you can't use those.
Could he put it on himself? I mean,
well, we didn't really explore that. That worry when a guest puts what do you do if you put it on upside down? What do you do?
I know. Okay, yeah.
So, and Hannah has the honor of having asked the king what he had for breakfast because of, to test the microphone. The answer is nothing. If you're interested, hasn't eaten breakfast for years. So that's
Really? That's
that's
interesting.
your
Okay.
insight.
Okay.
But yeah, as I say, it's easy to joke about it, but when you have a brand, an organization like that can mobilize that type of input, that type of PR, that type of attention, it's a joy. So yeah, it's been an honor and a joy to do it, and I doubt we'll ever have quite such a star-studded podcast episode ever again.
Yeah, that's quite a little quite a thing to have under your belt.
Yeah, it was only the second podcast he's done. He did do he did something with Apple, which was a sort of I can't remember what the occasion was. Maybe it was kind of in the coronation, but there was an occasion where he did a thing for Apple Radio of talking about his favorite music, which, if we're honest, was absolutely laid out for him. I'm sure he had some input, but
Yeah.
he had to include, all the nations of the Commonwealth, all the,
Of course.
all the ages. So that was sort of political nightmare. Whereas this, he was just able to really indulge himself in talking about something he loves.
Really wonderful. Yeah, I think people should definitely listen to that episode because it sounds
100%.
like it's a banger.
Yeah, it is. It's a beauty.
Yeah. Well, this has been absolutely fantastic. Neil, thank you so much for all your insight and information about how people can improve their podcasts and what branded podcasts should look to do, and all the data and all of that associated with it. I know it's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's exciting because it never stands still. So yeah, thank you very much. Really enjoyed chatting.
Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you if they'd like to do that?
So the podcast, obsessed with podcast. The website is freshair.audio. That's the best place to see what we do and to contact us through there. We're obviously always keen to hear from brands who want to explore this world. I should also say that we also do podcast advertising for brands, which isn't something we've touched on, but we can plan advertising campaigns for people anywhere in the world. We act as a sort of mini media agency. So yes, freshair.audio, you'll find out all about us and you'll be able to contact us through there.
Well, actually, before we go, I want to ask you about the advertising because I want to ask you what the difference is between, like, say, advertising on radio and advertising on a podcast. Do you find that one is better than the other or easier to produce, or what's the difference there?
Come in late and you've hit on a real
okay.
Of mine. So radio ads are rubbish. They really are. Most radio ads, and I will defend this. This is a hill I'm willing to die on. Most radio ads are done at the last minute by an ad agency who again thinks it's easy. They've spent 3 months working on the TV and they'll knock together a radio script and push it out there.
Oh yeah, with the DJ doing the voiceover.
100%, yeah, 100%. And so they've not thought about anything we've talked about earlier. They've not thought about tone. They've not thought about how to grab people's attention. They're just desperate for that 30 seconds for you to. Often, the tactic is often to irritate the audience as much as possible. This stupid idea that if you really annoy people, at least they'll remember the brand. So there's a lot of shoutiness in radio advertising.
And they'll remember the brand annoyed them.
Exactly that. Exactly
I mean, that's not helping the brand.
Whereas podcasting, there's nowhere to hide. So yes, radio, you're loyal to your radio channel. You will, you'll hear the ad break and you probably stick with it. You might do something else in the meantime, but you'll hear the ad break. And most of those ads will wash over you or annoy you. Very rare that one of them sticks with you. Whereas in podcasting, you've got that much more intimate space, so people are much more likely to be listening on headphones for podcasts than they are radio, and so you really have to think about the placement of the ad and the audience that are going to hear it in a way that most brands create one radio ad and stick it across all the radio stations to fulfill their media plan, whereas that's not, I'm not saying that's a good move, because if you appear on a sports show, it's different to appearing on a music show, but that's the way it is. Whereas in podcasting, you just cannot ignore the environment that you're popping up in. So if you take your radio ad, which is probably crap, and put it onto podcast, then you're not going to see a result that you want. The thing that is most effective by a long way is host reads, genuinely passionate host reads, with on a topic and a brand that the presenter genuinely loves. And I worry a bit about the ad load in podcasting. I worry about the fact that I can listen to my favorite podcast and be hit by 7 minutes of ads before it starts. That's not great.
When do you think the ad should be placed in a podcast?
I mean, I'm more of a fan of mid-roll than I am start, because at the start you're still really making a decision as to whether this episode is for you. And if you've got 7 minutes of ads, you just go, I'll just, I'll go somewhere else. Whereas actually in mid-roll, if you've made it to 15 minutes in, I mean, you might skip, but you are going to stick with the podcast, and therefore,
especially if it's host read.
Yeah, exactly that.
Do they get a script beforehand, or do they make it, or how does that usually go?
So on the host reads, the way it works is that we will put a set of bullet points together for the presenter. So we do, for instance, we're doing a series at the moment of ads for Visit Scotland, encouraging everybody to take their holidays in Scotland, which is a beautiful place. And
I could not agree more.
It's, stunning.
Yes.
Cold and a bit windy. You don't want to do it.
Well, you wouldn't want to go now.
No.
Yeah.
But it's it's absolutely stunningly beautiful. And so we give the presenters a set of bullet points that they have to hit, and the points that we want them to make about Scotland and why to go there, and then they record their host read, and we get it back, and we either feed back on it or we share it with the client and get them to sign it off. So no, it's not scripted, and other than the sort of call to action, that's normally a scripted thing. But
I'm sure the bullet points are helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the bullet points, and if you script it, you're always going to get it wrong. And I've heard some terrible scripted host reads before. A brand needs to chill out a bit and let the presenters and the podcasts who know their audience and know what their tone is tell it in their tone of voice, because otherwise it feels like an out of place ad. So we're always encouraging those brands to, yes, give us your bullet points, give us the things that absolutely have to be in there, but also allow a bit of levity and a bit of leeway for those presenters so that they can take what the audience already love about them and transfer it to your brand and be an ambassador, be an evangelist for your brand on their show. And that's something that, again, very few other media can offer.
Very few other media could pull it off. Actually.
No, completely.
Yeah.
I think we pride ourselves on doing that religiously, really working hard with the hosts to get something genuine and to come at it with an angle that's interesting to them. And again, I think that's what separates us out from large media organizations, large media agencies who frankly just see podcasting as another line on a spreadsheet now, rather than something that should be carefully considered and carefully thought about. So it's an exciting place, but tone of voice is key. Marrying that tone of voice with what the brand wants to say and what the listener will be happy to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Well, thank you for going into the detail there. I
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
No worries. And I'm sorry to all those people who make good radio ads. There aren't very many of them. But
it's a training ground. I get the impression it's a training ground. Like people feel that it's a training ground for TV.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, and that's the worst thing about it. Yeah. It's just give it to the junior producer, get them to knock it out and record it in half an hour. And actually, that radio ad will probably be heard by more people than see the TV ad.
It's unfortunate that people don't give it its due. And as a voice actor, I often hear really bad stuff on advertising.
Yeah,
so,
we all do.
Yeah. Well, I hope they hire you, and I hope they hire me.
So do I. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Neil. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Cheers, Jodi. All the best.
Well, that's the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. And if you like what you heard,
Why not tell a friend about this podcast? It's available in all the usual locations. Until next time.